to welcome back everybody who has joined us previously, and a new welcome to those of you who have joined us for the first time. Today we're going to talk about designing a mentoring program to improve onboarding. Our next webinar is going to be in January, and it is creating a comprehensive coaching and mentoring strategy. So be sure to watch your emails for the exact date in January when this webinar will take place. If you want to view any of our previous webinars, or make sure you know when that upcoming webinar in January is going to be sure and go to our website that is totally devoted to mentoring at mentoringtalent.com/webinars. What we'd also like for you to do is to think about joining our Thought Leaders Club in LinkedIn. Now, this is for L&D and HR professionals who are responsible for a mentoring initiative within their organization. It's a Thought Leaders Club, and it enables professionals to learn from each other, sharing experiences and advice and success stories about how you have implemented a mentoring program. We currently have over 400 members for you to network and share with. And again, if you'd like to join, please visit our mentoring website at mentoringtalent.com to join our group. Now what I'd like to do is to tell you a little bit more about who we are at Insala. We're a global provider of solutions around areas of mentoring, career development, and career transition. We work with organizations of all types and sizes, and if you'd like to learn more about us, please go to our website at insala.com, or again at our mentoring website at mentoringtalent.com. One of the things that I just talked about was the fact that we feel we are a solution provider. And the solutions that we provide around mentoring include consulting. We have a proven methodology that we've had in place for over 21 years. This has been used, as I said, with organizations of all types and sizes on a local, national, and international basis. We know the methodology works. It's had practical experience. And so we can help you to implement your mentoring program and avoid any of the pitfalls that may come up. We also provide training for organizations, and we do that in a customizable format. We could do it in webinars, we could do it in workshops, or combinations of those, whatever is best for your organization. The training we provide is for mentors, mentees, managers and supervisors, and program administrators to make sure everybody understands clearly what their role is in the mentoring program and the mentoring partnership. And then we provide a software as a service technology. This is what ensures that your mentoring program is going to be sustainable and to keep it from becoming what we call an administrative nightmare. What it does is it helps you to facilitate your matching and pairing. It provides a participant communication portal, and of course allows you to do all of the tracking and reporting that you want to be able to do for your mentoring program. We've had over 16 years experience implementing talent management software programs, and so this is an area that we greatly can help you with in being able to make sure, again, that your mentoring program is around and sustainable for a long period of time. Now, the kind of things you're going to learn today are the benefits of mentoring for onboarding programs, the common challenges for onboarding programs, and then how we have helped organizations overcome some of those challenges, and talk about how to design a mentoring program to facilitate mentoring for your onboarding. So at this time, what I'd like to do is, Kim, can you take us through our first poll?
Sure. Everyone should see a poll pop up on your screen now, and what we'd like to know is basically for the onboarding programs that you do have, about how much time do you allocate for the new hires? And then if you don't have a formal onboarding program, the choice is there as well. Looks like we've got quite a few people responded. If you could just take a moment to tell us how much time you allot for your onboarding program. And understanding it may be a little bit different if you have different onboarding programs for different roles. Just a nice average would be good. Looks like we've got way over 80% respondents, so I'll close this out and share it with everybody. So Judy, it looks like the majority, 27%, have 2 to 5 working days committed to their onboarding program. Then 22% have 2 to 6 working weeks committed to the onboarding program. and then 1 day or less or more than 6 weeks falls shortly behind that, and then 14% don't have a formal onboarding program just yet. So maybe you could speak to those results.
Yes, and I really like the idea that we have some higher percentages there, 27 and 22%, that, you know, it's at least a week, and some of those 2 to 6 weeks. So it's really good to hear that you do have an onboarding program going on. And so what we want to do now is to show you how to make the best use of that onboarding program by tying it to mentoring. You know, before we get too far into that, what we'd like to do is talk to you about some of the common themes that we're seeing that are happening in mentoring. So one of the things that we're seeing is it's much less of a hierarchical relationship. One of the historical perceptions around mentoring was the mentor always had to be at a higher job grade level than the mentee. And what we're finding in most organizations is that's not true, that a lot of the mentoring that's going on is much more could be around a peer-to-peer or reverse, because we're seeing a lot of new focuses around mentoring. Peer mentoring, this reverse mentoring that I just mentioned, team mentoring, distance mentoring, and none of these have to do with job grade level or job title in how the mentoring partnerships work. Now, in addition to that, we're also seeing that organizations believe mentoring is around career development versus career advancement. Again, this was one of the historical misperceptions around mentoring, that if you were in a mentoring partnership, it automatically meant you were going to get promoted. And organizations are realizing, no, mentoring is about development. And if the development helps you to get more complex assignments or higher job grade level assignments, that's great. But mentoring is about development. It is not about advancement. In addition to that, organizations are realizing the mentoring is one of the most cost-effective and time-efficient development tools that an organization has for developing their people. You've got a wealth of talent inside of your organization, and what you want to be able to do is capture that talent in a format that allows it to be shared among each other. So it's incredibly cost-efficient. It's time-efficient because individuals can get development and learning on a just-in-time basis when they really need it. And the other thing that we're finding is that it's serving a variety of organizational objectives. We're seeing situations where it's around leadership development. We're seeing ways in which it is used for diversity and inclusion, and also for onboarding, which is the topic of what we're going to talk about today. Now, one of the things that we want to talk about is some of the benefits of having an onboarding program and mentoring tied to your onboarding program. And there really are many benefits. So as an example, for the new hire, a mentor can start them off on the right foot and successfully integrate them in to the organizational culture. It also helps increase the employee's self-confidence, because, you know, I've got someone that's really helping me and is really concerned and wants me to be successful with this new organization. The mentor can also teach missing skills and impart knowledge and expertise that the new hire may be missing. And it also helps to enhance professional development in being able to do that. Now, for the new hire, what we find is they have, for the mentor, they find, you know, that relationship can function as a two-way street. You know, many times what we hear is because the new hire may have just graduated from university, college, a trade school, whatever it might be, or the fact that the new hire has come from another organization, they may be able to provide some fresh ideas for the mentor. And what they're able to do then is to bring a different perspective. And having those fresh ideas can be a great benefit for the mentor. In addition to that, mentors may also receive recognition and reinforcement from these new hires as they become mentees. Because the new hires that become mentees, they realize all of the benefits that they got out of it, so they're able to, you know, provide positive recognition to the individual who was their mentor. And then benefits for the organization. First of all, it provides those new hires an understanding of the organization's culture. We all know that every organization has its own unique culture, and so mentors can help provide this information to the new hire and what they're doing. It also engenders staff loyalty. One of the things that we know about tying mentoring to your onboarding program is that there's a higher level of engagement, a higher level of commitment, and a higher level of loyalty that comes from the new hires that have the benefits of this. Also, what happens is we all know that the organization has a tremendous investment in recruiting and hiring employees. And so what you're able to do by tying mentoring to your onboarding program is to protect that investment by getting these new hires started out on the right foot. And then one of the things that we definitely know is that it improves new hire time to productivity. We have several organizations, and this is one of their most important areas to look at. They want to be able to bring their people up to staff and up to productivity faster. They want them to be more productive faster. And so improving the new hire time to productivity becomes very, very important to organizations. So these are some of the benefits that we see that tying mentoring to your onboarding program can bring for the new hire, for the mentor themselves, and for the organization. Now, there's some common challenges that we see with onboarding programs overall. Now, one of the things that we see is overloading of new hires. We've all lived through this. Remember what it was like when you first started with the organization, and there's an abundance of knowledge and information that you are given. And it all kind of comes at you at one time and what you're doing. And you're supposed to remember it all. Well, many times we can't, and it really does cause an overload for new hires. One of the other things that we see as a problem is there's delays in offering onboarding. So one of the things we have seen in some organizations is they actually bring people into the organization, they get up and running and going, and then several weeks after they have started, then what they're able to do is then they start their onboarding program. The other thing that we see many times is there's too short a time frame. Some of you had mentioned, that it could be less than a day that you spend in your onboarding program. So again, one of the things that we find is there really can be too short of a time frame in what's going on. And then another thing that we find is there's no metrics or accountability for the onboarding program. We believe that you should measure your onboarding program, and many times we find that doesn't happen. So, Kim, can you take us through our next poll so we can find out some of the challenges our participants have?
Sure. I'll launch the poll up on the screen, but Judy, just wanted to let you know we're getting some reports of some static or some movement that's causing some audio challenges. I don't know if anything may be going on your end, but we'll try to address that here and just make sure everybody's muted. So anyhow.
Okay.
So the poll should be up on everyone's screen now. What we'd like to know is if you could please select the most common challenges that you've encountered within your onboarding program, and you can select more than one. Maybe overloading your new hires with information or delays in offering the onboarding, too short of a time frame, or no metrics for accountability. So if you could just take a moment to give us an answer there, Judy can speak to those results. Looks like we've got almost everyone voted, and again, if you encounter more than one obstacle, then definitely check off 2 of those. So now we've got right at about 80%. I'll just close this out and then display the results for everyone to see. So Judy, it looks like 68% don't have metrics or accountability within their onboarding program, and 58% say that they struggle with overloading new hires. And then much lower response, almost about 30% between delays in offering onboarding and then also too short of a time frame. So maybe you could speak to some of those results.
Yes, and one of the things that we know is that many organizations don't think about the metrics and accountability for their onboarding program. And so, here's how we believe tying mentoring to your onboarding program can help to overcome some of these challenges in what you're doing. So one of the first thing is overloading new hires. Well, a mentor can support the new hire with information and on that ongoing basis. So again, what happens is we get a lot of information at one time, and part of what happens is we don't remember it all, and the mentor can be there to help the new hire, along the way. So many times we don't want to ask questions as a new hire because we don't want to appear stupid. I mean, we remember that we got that information, we just don't remember exactly what it was all about. So the mentor can be there to help the new hire and, kind of support and reinforce the information they received on an ongoing basis. If there's a delay in offering onboarding, the way mentoring can help is mentoring can start immediately. As soon as somebody walks in the door, it can start immediately. And we're actually going to talk about that in more detail a little bit. Too short of a time frame? Well, a mentoring relationship can go on longer than maybe the specific onboarding program that you have, because that mentoring relationship can reinforce all the information from your onboarding program and getting people into the organizational culture for up to 6 to 12 months. And then from a metric standpoint, we believe formal mentoring programs can be measured and should be measured. So if you're tying it to your onboarding program, it's a natural extension of being able to then measure that program. And again, we're going to talk about some of these things as we go forward. Okay, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take you through some case studies and kind of talk about some of the problems that our clients have had and how we have helped them to resolve them. Now, the first thing that we're talking about is this time to productivity. And we had an HR department that needed to achieve a faster learning curve for this particular position. But they also wanted to make sure that they were able to maintain the key skill and productivity requirements of what they were doing. So the way that we were able to help them with that solution is, first of all, we started out by doing a skill competency assessment to determine exactly where the new hire's knowledge level was at. So we wanted to get that baseline of where the new hire was at and being able to do that. Then what we did is made sure that mentors were qualified using criteria that ensured their expertise in those areas of need that the new hire had. And then each new hire was assigned a mentor based on their needs and the mentor's area of expertise. Now, the results, time to productivity, generated a 57% improvement. For this particular position, the time to productivity was reduced from 13 weeks to 6 weeks. That's an incredible time-saving and time-efficient use of learning. Bringing people up to speed 7 weeks faster is very, very important. Just imagine what that could do for your organization if you had that kind of a learning curve and people were learning faster than before. Now, another case study that we have talked about has to do with that, information overload. And what happened was this organization found out the new hires were receiving too much information at once during the onboarding, and we've all experienced that one. And the company needed to share accurate and crucial information with these new hires, but how did they do that without overwhelming them? Well, some of the solutions that we offered to this client was mentors were qualified to make sure that they were able to provide the best first impression of the organization and being able to do that. Qualification criteria ensured the mentors had specific information to impart to that mentee, that they were able to reinforce all of the information that individuals were going to get during their onboarding process and then be able to reinforce that on an ongoing basis. And then one of the things we asked is they needed to have a personal quality of patience. The reason for that, again, many times, and I'm sure we've all experienced this, is a situation in which individuals are feeling odd about asking the same question over and over again because they know they've heard it. In fact, if you've ever experienced this, you've probably used the phrase that, I know I've heard this before, but I just can't remember. the exact answer. So these mentors needed to have patience because they were liable to answer some of the same questions over and over again. Then, as a best practice, we suggested that there should be 2 mentors that were allocated for each new hire. Now, one mentor needed to focus on the organization's culture, and another mentor needed to focus on the job specifically in what they were going to be doing. So having 2 different mentors, each allocated to provide different types of information to the new hire, was very good. Now, the purpose of the partnership was information sharing, and this was clearly communicated to new hires ahead of time. The results for this were, number 1, survey results indicated there was a reduction in new hire frustration and an increase in satisfaction with the onboarding program. The number of complaints from managers decreased significantly because individuals were not coming to them asking some of the same questions all the time. And the same thing, HR experienced a reduction in follow-up phone calls and emails and office visits regarding new hire issues. Now, before we go to the next case study, Kim, are you still getting comments about a problem?
Nope, it seems to have cleared up. So.
Okay, not sure what I did differently, but it doesn't matter. It's cleared up. That's all that matters. Okay, now the last case study that we want to talk about was how to integrate new employees into a company culture. This was a situation where after a specific merger took place, the company needed to help a group of newly acquired employees adjust from working in a big city, a very large city, to a very small town in Connecticut. Now, what we worked with them on as a solution was we, within the present organization, we worked to qualify mentors at this new location so that they could be an aid to the onboarding of the new employees. Mentors were educated on how to support the new employees after the merger took place so that there wasn't so much of the we and they or us and them type of mentality. The time commitment required in the partnership was communicated clearly to the mentors because this was going to take possibly a little more than what was expected, so we made sure they understood what the time commitment was going to be for these new employees. Each new employee was assigned a mentor, again, based on their specific needs. And here's one of the things that we worked with this organization to do, which was really different but absolutely effective. Not only was each new hire, each new employee assigned a mentor, but there were also mentors that were assigned to the employee's family to help them settle into a new location. Many times what happens within the family environment is the adults are okay about moving, but you've got kids in school. They don't want to leave where they're feeling comfortable and where they know specifically that in one situation it happened with a group of teenage boys and they weren't real happy about making that move at all. And you know, that can affect the new hire, the new employee, and the family environment that they're in and whether they even make the change. But in this particular, they were able to do that. There were individual teenagers that were also qualified and trained to work with the family's teenagers, got them into school, and it wasn't a matter of these guys being able to go into school and not know anybody. They were able to start school and actually know several people. It's a very, very different feeling for a family and for all of the family environment to know they're not always the new people on the block and doing that. Now, here's what some of the results were. 84% of the new employees were very satisfied with the overall onboarding experience, but most of all, the families sent letters to the company expressing their gratitude for the mentor support in the relocation and the assimilation. And specifically, many of these were from families who had children that were involved. So it wasn't just the adults that were in the situation, but it was also the children. And this was really, really different in doing this. So now that we've talked about some of the challenges, we've talked about how we've helped organizations to meet some of these challenges, what we're going to talk about now is some of our recommendations on how to design a mentoring program that supports onboarding in doing that. Now, the first recommendation that we have is you have got to define your objectives and goals for your mentoring program. Now, you know, is it going to be about increasing retention of new hires, providing new employee guidance, or increasing that time to productivity and being able to do that? So at this time, Kim, will you take us through our next poll?
Yes, everyone should see the next poll pop up on your screen. And what we'd like to know is, what's the main objective of your onboarding program? So just choose one, but really, is it going to be improving time to productivity or ensuring consistent communication with others on the team, maybe helping new hires adjust to the culture, learning where everyone and everything is within the company, or improving retention and engagement of new hires so that they have more buy-in up front? Or are you trying to position yourself as the best employer to work for within the industry by promoting a very quality onboarding program? So please choose which one really, I guess, typifies the efforts that you're undertaking with your onboarding programs. Looks like we've got quite a few people having responded, close to 80% here, so just a few more seconds and I'll close it out. Okay, and then I'll share those results with everybody. So Judy, it looks like the most, 36%, have an onboarding program to improve time to productivity. And then right, trailing very closely behind that at 31%, organizations are looking to improve retention and engagement of new hires, followed by helping new hires adjust to the culture. And then very few, only 7%, want to ensure consistent communication, or 4% position themselves as the best employer to work for in the industry. So maybe you could speak to those results.
Time to productivity is real important as well as your retention situation. For those of you that were looking at consistent communication and becoming that employer of choice, that's also, we all know, as the economy is getting better and the hiring is becoming more important, that's also going to be important to what it is you're doing. So great, glad to hear that. Okay, so we're saying that the #1 recommendation that we're going to give you on creating a mentoring program that supports our onboarding is you've got to define your goals and objectives. Now, what I'd like to do is to give you a couple of examples of what some objectives and goals might look like. And remember, what we talked about previously was the fact that as a best practice, we suggest that you really have 2 different types of mentors for your new hires. One of those mentors would be around culture and the organization's culture. The other would be specifically focused on the job and what you're doing. So an example that might come up around organization culture would be to increase the retention rate of new hires by enabling them to rapidly adapt to their role and the company culture. So making sure that individuals feel comfortable in being able to do that. Now, if somebody has a mentor that's focused specifically on their job, one of those objectives might be to ensure that all new employees have access to the resources needed to be successful. So it's really making sure that they can get to the skills, get to the tools, get to the resources they need to be effective and successful on their job. So you need, #1, you need to define those goals and objectives, but then you need to make sure that your matching criteria is what it should be. You need to choose your matching criteria to fulfill those onboarding objectives that you have. So again, to walk you through a couple of examples on doing that, if the mentor partnership is around organizational and cultural mentoring, you might want to pick mentors based on the number of years in the organization, the business function they're in, and their location. Now, distance mentoring is becoming more and more important within organizations. But when it comes to new hires, they really need to have that individual much more face-to-face in what they're doing, at least in those beginning phases of orientation and understanding the organization. Now, if the mentoring partnership and the mentor is focusing on that job skill development, the kind of things that you might want to look for in that mentor is what's their career level, what are the skills and competencies that are needed by that new hire, and what are the skills and competencies and areas of expertise of the mentor, what are the business functions that are involved, and then again, looking at that location. Now, in having to do with the job skill development and working with the mentee and new hire on that, distance isn't quite as much of a situation as it is with the culture, because you want individuals to really understand the organization's culture right away, but it's still incredibly beneficial if that mentor can be face-to-face or in very close proximity of the new hire to get them started. It either needs to happen from literally being face-to-face, or you've got to provide some type of tool to allow them to be able to communicate very quickly and easily. Because again, you've got this new hire, they're in a new job, they need to be able to get to somebody quickly, and you don't want them always turning to the person that's sitting next to them and doing that. Now, the third recommendation that we have is you've got your goals and objectives, you set your matching criteria, then you need to think about when you're going to introduce the mentor to the mentee. And again, if it's around that organizational culture partnership that's going to be involved, that needs to happen at the very start of the onboarding program. And normally these individuals are introduced to the new hire by the new hire's manager, or it could be by HR. The reason for that is you want to provide a warm, positive experience and support from the very first day. Let them know somebody is there and doing that. And since it's not tied to any formal training, the mentor can start right away working with this individual and doing that. Now, if it's around job skill develop, you probably want to introduce these individuals after the formal training has taken place and when they're starting the job. The reason for that is because it reinforces the learning that they get in formal training. Because again, when we go through formal training, we get lots of information, we get lots of knowledge, but we don't always get exactly what that looks like when we put it into practical experience on our job. And it provides guidance and support when the individual actually is on the job to do that. Now, another recommendation, if you're in a situation where you've got a lot of individuals that are going to be onboarding at one time, you might introduce the concept of group mentoring or team mentoring. Now, some of the reasons for that is you need less mentors. So if you've got 25 or 30 new hires, you may only need 5, 6, or 7 mentors that are involved. Groups can share similar experiences and questions with the mentor, and the new hires begin to mentor each other. In addition to that, it promotes team building with new hires. We see this quite often happening. And it's almost like individuals that are the new hires, they start together, they become almost like their own fraternity, or and they carry this through and they remember what it was like, because they're not the new person alone. They're in a group, and so everybody's kind of working together. It really promotes good team building within all of these new hires. And then our next recommendation is you really need to provide online information. Where can I learn about my mentor? What kind of information about my job role? And what's my role as a mentee? You need to provide information to new hires. It needs to be accessible. Why? Because it's going to clarify their role as a mentee. They're going to learn about who their mentor is, and then they're going to be able to obtain information about the process overall. So some examples of what some of those online tools may look like is, providing them with a profile, so that they really understand what information about their mentor. And in addition to that, really understanding what mentoring is all about within the organization, why it's important to the organization, why it's important to me as a new hire who's in the mentee role, and then why it's a benefit for my mentor to have that. So again, making sure that there is an online information tool is very, very important. And then last, you need to be able to measure what you've achieved based on those original goals and objectives that you set. And some of the ways that you can gather information by ensuring you've got an online tool to do that is feedback survey from the mentee or from the manager, and finding out if the manager agrees that that time to productivity for the mentee really has improved. There needs to be some kind of a learning plan where the mentees, that new hires development goals can be achieved. And you know, it's much easier to gather all of this feedback if you're using a mentoring technology solution. So at this point in time, Kim, will you take us through our last poll?
Sure. I'm going to put the last poll up on the screen. Everyone should see it up now. So what we'd like to know is, have you measured the results achieved within your onboarding program? And this was, at the beginning, people said that a lot of people said they didn't have a program, but if you do have a program, are you measuring the results of your onboarding program, or are you just putting the actual participants through it? So let us know, yes, you were successful, or perhaps you tried but you weren't very successful in measuring the onboarding program, or no, measurement is not a priority for you now, or you're really not sure how to measure the results. Looks like we've got more than 65%, and so she'll just take a couple of moments to pick one of these and let us know how the measurement of your onboarding program went, and then I'll share the results with everyone. Okay. So it looks like, Judy, we've got 55% of our audience members are not sure how to measure the results, followed by 23% who said that they did measure them and it was successful, and then 13% say that measurement is not a priority for them, and then 9% tried but were not successful. So maybe you could speak to those results.
Yes, and again, one of the things that we get most of our questions on is around, how do we measure this? There's a lot of times that individuals don't think about how to be able to do that. So we're going to talk about some of those things. Now, what we also are going to talk about, though, is that in order to be able to do this, you need technology to help to facilitate your mentoring for onboarding. And here's some of the things that technology allow you to be able to do. First of all, it allows onboarding. It allows you to be able to do online matching, application forms, and profiles. In many cases, individuals can actually go in and do some of the matching themselves, or they can ask for assistance in doing that. Also, from a goal tracking standpoint, being able to provide the mentee with goal setting tools to track onboarding process or progress, and also, again, going back to that, giving them access to online content so that they can go back and always be able to look at some of the content they need. And you want to make sure that that's specific to your onboarding program. And then you want to be able to gather feedback with an online survey tool. Again, it is much easier to gather any information and to be able to track and provide reporting for your mentoring program if you have a technology tool to do that. And being able to measure that return on investment of your technology, using your technology, becomes very important. We know using mentoring technology, administration time is reduced. We've had several previous webinars that really take you through an ROI and exactly what type of dollars and time administration time is reduced. There's better matching results. The mentee can actually go in and choose their own mentor, or what they're able to do is they can go in and they can ask a program administrator to help them with doing that. But the point is, they're asking for their specific needs based on that, whether they do self-matching or facilitated matching. It also allows you to be able to upload your specific content around onboarding, so that you are able to very specifically design and personalize this based on your ongoing onboarding program. You're able to track objectives and review the goals and the survey data from the mentee, and then especially if you are an organization that has new hires and they're in multiple locations throughout a city, throughout a state, throughout the nation, or throughout the globe, it's much easier to manage when the new hires are in multiple locations. So how can we help you? Well, the way we can help you is to evaluate what a structured mentoring program can achieve for your organization using our high-impact mentoring readiness workshop. We can help you to determine how your organization can roll out mentoring as an effective onboarding initiative. We can help you implement a successful mentoring program using our online mentoring solutions and training. And we can help you achieve a maximum program return on investment. and demonstrate results with your onboarding program. So as a summary of what we've talked about today, we talked about the time to productivity and retention for new hires and how that can be increased using mentoring and tying mentoring to your onboarding program. We talked about how important it was to have specific goals and objectives for your program in doing that, and being sure that you choose criteria matching that achieves those objectives as you're going forward. We talked about also always being able to measure the results once the onboarding period is over, and to make sure that you have a mentoring software solution to facilitate any of the administration work and act as an online resource to the new hires to use. So we'd like to bring you a couple of reminders. First of all, we want to remind you about our High Impact Mentoring Thought Leaders Club and to visit our mentoring website at mentoringtalent.com. Our next webinar is going to be in January, and it's about creating a comprehensive coaching and mentoring strategy. And if you have any questions that we were not able to answer on the webinar today, please send those to us at our Thought Leaders Club or at info@insala.com. So Kim, looks like we've got some time for some questions.
We do. We have quite a few questions. Well, one of the prevalent questions is maybe you could share some tips on running a successful virtual or distance mentoring program.
This is becoming more and more popular because organizations are spread out in everything they're doing, and working with organizations that have got multiple locations in what they're doing. The very first thing you've got to do when you are doing distance mentoring is making sure that your mentors and mentees are trained and understand exactly what this is about. I just recently was doing some training with mentors and mentees, and the biggest concern the mentees had was around distance mentoring. And what we really were able to do during the training was to show them all the advantages of distance mentoring. In other words, one of the things that we hear all the time from individuals that are in distance mentoring partnerships is the fact that they have gotten to know individuals in the organization they never would have gotten to know any other way, or they've gotten to know parts of the organization that they haven't gotten to know any other way. So one of the very first things I usually start out with when I'm doing training with mentors and mentees is the phrase of talking to them about the fact that, you know, for those of you that are in distance mentoring relationships, lucky you. So it's very, very important that people understand their roles, they understand the tools available to them to be able to communicate, and they understand all the advantages of the distance mentoring. And, you know, the program coordinators really need to kind of do more frequent check-in points with these mentors and mentees to make sure that they stay on track in what they're doing. But distance mentoring partnerships are really great.
Good deal. Thank you very much, Judy. A couple more questions here. Maybe you could discuss a little bit about how to measure a mentor's patience. That's come up actually, talking about if a mentor will have the patience to get a mentee up to speed. Maybe that could get into how a mentor is qualified to be a mentor. So maybe you could speak to that.
Well, one of the things you probably heard us talk about several times is that word qualified. We believe mentors and mentees should qualify in doing this. And your new hires are going to come in, and when I say qualify there, what I'm talking about is you need to ask them about being a mentor. We've had situations where some new hires had some bad previous experiences in mentoring. Normally it was because the mentor they had no choice but to be a mentor. They were told by senior management, you have to be a mentor. And as one new hire put it, my mentor didn't want to be a mentor, and we both knew it, and it wasn't pleasant. So, you know, they weren't real ready to have another one in what they were doing. So, you know, you need to check with your mentees, and part of their qualification is that. And also making sure that you go through some kind of an assessment to find out what their needs are so they can see the benefits of being able to do that. Now, with the mentors, and specifically, I like that question, how do you qualify somebody around patience? My suggestion on how to do that is there's a lot of assessment tools that are out there that can help you with that. The easiest thing to do is that you need to define what you mean by patient. If you talk to 10 different people, you're liable to get 10 different definitions. So as an organization, you need to very specifically define what you mean by patients. As an example, we have done that. And then if I actually saw somebody, what's the picture look like if somebody is demonstrating patience? And give them some examples of what that would look like so they're not surprised. Somebody may think they're very patient, but when that new hire starts asking the same question 4 or 5 times, that wasn't what they considered they needed to be patient about. So my suggestion is you need to define what you mean by that and very specifically define different behaviors. This is what you will probably see a new hire do, and you need to be willing to handle these situations in doing that. So make sure you've got a real clear picture and everybody agrees on what that picture is. And I really like that question. Whoever asked that, thank you. That's a very interesting one.
All right, thank you, Judy. And one person did want to know, maybe you could elaborate a little bit about what you meant by team mentoring. Is that a team being mentoring an individual, or an individual mentoring a team?
Actually, it's both, and we look at that. What we mean when we talk about team mentoring or group mentoring is one mentor has more than one mentee, or one mentee has more than one mentor. Now, as an example, from the mentee standpoint, I might have a mentor that's helping me with the organizational culture area. I might have another mentor that's helping me with my career development, another one that is helping me in a specific skill. Well, let's say it's strategic thinking or whatever it might be. So again, I have a team of mentors that are really working with me and helping me. Now, the other side of that is that it can also be a situation where you have a mentor who has multiple mentees. Now, you can usually, the question always comes up, okay, how many mentees should a mentor have? And in normal situations, it's difficult for a mentor, unless they're really, really good, to have more than 2. We've seen mentors that have had as many as 3, but you really got to be careful that you're not spreading the mentors so thin that one of those 3 mentees is going to get shortchanged in doing that. When it comes to new hires, though, that can be expanded a bit because they're all coming in at various levels in what they're doing. But they do have some things in common, which would be around learning about the organization, culture, those types of things. So in that case, because there's a real common need of all of the mentees, then you can have one mentor to possibly as many as 4 or 5 mentees in doing that. But that's what we mean by team mentoring or group mentoring. It's a mentor who has more than one mentee, or a mentee who has had more than one mentor.
Great, Judy, and I know we're almost out of time. We've got quite a few questions here, but here's a good one, a short one you might be able to answer. Maybe you could share your thoughts on assigning an onboarding mentor from the same staff level versus someone, and I guess higher up in the organization.
Actually, I think it's really a great idea to have someone that's much more a peer-to-peer type of mentor, and if it's like on a job focus. I would say that it doesn't necessarily have to be somebody that's a higher job grade level to focus on the cultural mentoring, but it certainly does have to be somebody who's been in the organization for a while so that they can explain the culture of the organization, how the organization has grown, how it's changed, those types of things. But having a peer mentor when someone is starting in a new job can be very helpful because they can kind of help show them the ropes about the job. Also, if you've got more of a peer-to-peer type of partnership going on, you've got a situation where the individual who's in the role of the mentor probably remembers, a lot more of what it was like to be in that new hire role. And so there's probably a lot more empathy that they can give the new hire and being able to do that. So I think, some organizations call it, the buddy, in being able to do that. But it's somebody that the mentee or the new hire can easily relate to. but they can get also very, very accurate information about the job as they're going forward. Again, it's part of that qualification in moving forward.
Sorry, I was on mute. Thank you, Judy. So again, like I said, we have quite a few questions. I'll keep a short one here. Maybe you could just speak about the difference between onboarding or mentoring for onboarding specifically versus mentoring for general career development, and how those two programs should be distinguished one from another.
Well, what distinguishes the two programs is based on the needs of the mentee or the new hire and the focus of your objectives and what's to be accomplished. Both those programs have very different objectives. So chances are when I'm a new hire, I'm more interested in just surviving, you know, the first few months of being with the organization. And normally career development and mentoring that's focused on career development happens much later. Now when I say much later, it could be a year later. It doesn't have to be like it's years and years. It could be a year later. But the point is that the new hire is now a mentee. They're out of that new hire role. They really are in a mentee. And they're much more established in the organization and what they're doing. So I believe they are two very different focuses and should be two very different programs. And again, the thing that distinguishes them is the goals and objectives are going to be different for each of those. The criteria for the mentors is going to be different for both of those. And, you know, much of the things that we talked about, you know, earlier, you know, the types of mentors that you're going to pick, all those types of things, you know, all those things are very different as you move forward.
Okay. Well, Judy, it's just now the top of the hour, so we probably should close up. Any of you all who didn't get have your questions answered, if you'd like to speak with Judy afterwards, then you